Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, May 6th meeting of the Barrington Planning Board. Before we start the roll call, note that Marcus roll call with
Ripper here.
I can hear. Yeah.
Capiello here.
Jesse, you're here.
Al present. Driscoll here. Also with us is John Hawking, building inspector and code enforcement officer. First item is review and approve April 1st. Any correction?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second it.
Roll call.
Okay.
Aye.
Capiello, aye.
Jesse, aye.
Al and I. Driscoll, aye. Action items 5A1 257-29-1 ER 25 sub 4 owner Joe Falzone on Mary Hill Road. Chris?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Christopher Berry with Berry Surveying and Engineering, representing Joe Falzone here this evening in his company 12-month LLC. It's been sort of a long journey on this project. It's essentially a 4-lot subdivision. 3 of the lots have frontage on the required frontage on Mary Hill Road, and then the 4th lot is a back lot. Essentially, to take advantage of the views and the nice building area at the top of the proposed, or at the top of the existing site, the applicant has been proposing right along to develop a driveway to gain access to the top of the property. We had come back to the planning board with an additional conditional use permit 2 months ago, where we proposed the 4th driveway off from, or the 4th lot have access off from Mary Hill Road directly. And the planning board instructed us to redesign the project to remove that additional driveway, provide for all 4 lots to have access off from a driveway design in the position that we had previously designed it, so that there was no additional impact on the wetland buffers and any additional impact on Mary Hill Road. We've since redesigned the site, rerun the stormwater calculations. We have requested the waivers that we thought were appropriate for this type of board action, and CMA Engineers has reviewed our plan set. There were comments pertaining to the engineering design, which we responded to, and those responses were submitted to both you and CMA as part of our last submission. So we do have a conditional use permit before the board. That conditional use permit proposes approximately 5,000 square feet of permanent and temporary disturbance within the 50-foot wetlands buffer. I believe you've heard from the Conservation Commission that this is the preferred approach as opposed to having the 2 driveways, which I think created the request for us to redesign and come back with all 4 lots having access off from this private driveway. So I guess with that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that the board has, and we'd like to move the application forward tonight if we could, discuss the waivers, discuss the conditional use permit application, and then any other outstanding items that the board has.
Any comments?
I have one.
Good.
The engineers pointed out, and I thought it was a pretty interesting piece, that they're like, it's really a private road as opposed to a driveway. And is there something that prohibits you from giving it that little bit of extra berth from the standpoint that getting vehicles past each other is much more manageable with the additional 2 feet that you would gain from a road standpoint, a private road standpoint?
So I think something that may have been missed as part of their review is that we're not exactly proposing just a basic driveway that is a goat path
Right.
up the slope. This is actually 22 feet wide, so it's wider than most roadways in town. All we're proposing is that it's a section of 16 feet of pavement. So you still have the ability to have two vehicles pass. It still meets NFPA 1, Chapter 18. Quite frankly, when you change the designation in your regulations from driveway to private road, there's a whole host in Table 1 that kicks in. Slope, different slope management, not only the slope in the profile, but slope in the cross-section. You need to start determining whether or not under drainage is required. There's a whole host of other requirements that is simply too onerous for this particular project. And I think the planning board made the decision 2 months ago that it was appropriate in this particular case to go with a driveway standard, a pretty robust driveway standard, as opposed to a private road standard for 4 lots.
Okay, no one else? Would you like to start with the 9-6 or?
Sure.
Okay.
Just make sure I printed the actual 9-6. So the 9-6 is disturbance within the wetland buffer. Again, it's approximately 5,000 square feet in size. We prepared a plan that demonstrates that in sort of the pink highlighted area. All of this disturbance, let me just double check. All of this disturbance is actually for the installation of a stormwater best management practice. So without the best management practice, stormwater would leave the site at a rate that was uncontrolled. And so we want to install this to ensure that it's treated stormwater and it's controlled so that abutting property owners downslope are not impacted by the project design. So to the specific questions, so it asks us to describe why this particular location is required for the 9-6. Obviously, stormwater flows downhill. This is the lowest point on the property. This is to the point where we could grab all of our impervious surfaces and developed area and get it to this one location for treatment and attenuation, and then back into the natural wetland flow underground. There's no other site, no other place on site that we could take care of that stormwater. So the proposed use is in keeping with the intent. This zone permits single-family homes, driveway access, things of that nature. And therefore, we think that this certainly promotes that use, but also promotes stormwater quality and meets the stormwater regulations of the town of Barrington. After a review of all reasonable alternatives, essentially, as I pointed out, this is the lowest point on the property. There are no other areas outside of the buffer that this could take place. And so this is the most reasonable area. It is the smallest footprint that could be proposed. In our opinion, it is the best management practice to be used in this particular instance. The proposed structure or use must be set back as far as possible from the delineated edge. And so just to work through how we determine whether or not this is pushed back as far as possible, we design a pond that we think will fit. We run the stormwater calculations, and then if we have room inside the model, that pond is shrunk back and decreased in size, and we found that efficiency with this particular project design. The pond is designed for the 100-year 24-hour storm event so that it maintains peak rates of flow at all storm events up to the 100-year storm event. Appropriate erosion control must be in place. We have a pretty robust sediment and erosion control plan as part of our plan set that has silt sock, mulch berm, and stabilization matting that's required on all of the slopes. So we've demonstrated that we meet the sediment and erosion control requirements. And any disturbance to the surrounding buffer zone must be repaired or restored upon completion of construction. Upon completion of construction, the pond is going to be loamed and seeded, and will essentially be planted in green, but isn't in its natural condition. Number 6, all available mitigation measures to address changes in water quality. Ironically, the entire request for the pond is to improve water quality that comes off from the developed site. So the request meets that number 6 requirement.
Thank you. Any comment by the board before it open to public comment? Hearing none, I'll open it up to public comment. If anybody would like to speak to this application to 9.6 special permit to develop, please come forward, develop into a wetlands buffer. Hello?
You gotta push the button so the green light comes on.
Here we go. Kevin Trompak with my wife Christine Trompak. We're the abutters on 101 Mary Hill. So I'll start out with kind of just my summary, get to the end. I'm asking you guys not to approve this request. And it's primarily based on, I understand, as I take a look at everything that the engineering firm has prepared, I understand all the plans for the developer and the contractors to take care of the inspection, the maintenance, the stormwater management, because they have a vested interest to sell the property for the 4 lots for the people to buy it. What I don't understand is the wording in the application that it says that once the property is turned over because it's a private road, then there is the expectation that we're going to have 4 separate property owners that are now going to be responsible on a yearly basis to take care of inspection, maintenance, vegetation, sweeping of the driveway or this road 3 times a year, putting down what they use for salt and de-icing of the property. And so my question is, I don't want to be the person responsible for policing this. And so I don't think we've addressed any of this because there's not a homeowners association. How we kind of move from, if there's 1 home that's sold, does then the developer take care of half of it and then 1 homeowner takes care of the other half? If it's 2, I mean, how does this get done? And then finally, how does somebody, who's going to go and check to see that these actually get done? I mean, like I said, I believe that there's a vested interest in the developer to do these while the property is being developed for everything that the engineering firm has laid out. I think they're great. But once that's done, I mean, who polices that? And once it's done, if it's approved, does then the town of Barrington, are they going to go up and check that every year? So that's why I'm asking for you guys not to approve this. Not against the developing of the property, but the shared driveway it opens up a ton of problems for us down the road if we ever want to do anything with our property and there's problems with runoff, wetlands, and things. Thanks.
Anyone else like to comment? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment. Is there a motion to grant the 9.6? Make that motion. Roll call.
Can we just back up for a second to his comment? I think it is something
Oh,
I
sure.
understand why he'd be concerned. I guess the question is what are the other options and why are they worse? So it seems like you could have multiple driveways for each house, but now you're still relying on people to clean this and maintain it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not uncommon to have private road maintenance agreements amongst property owners, so I don't see why that wouldn't be the case here.
There should be a deed restriction. Should be
Yeah,
maintenance
I'm just trying to help.
I think Chris could address it, because they usually do that as part of that purchase and sales about the responsibility of the driveway.
Yeah, so we have obviously, the gentleman has read our operations and maintenance manual. That is impregnated inside of a private road or private driveway agreement. In this particular case, just given the number, it's not going to be an HOA because there's not enough people to be inside the HOA. And then each deed is required to meet, to essentially be part of that management group to take care of these. So
Could you talk a little more about that, Chris? Will that group, will they have to meet together as a group every year and develop a plan, or how does that work?
So there's no, unlike an HOA, there's no like bylaws and that type of thing. You know, if there were 6, 7, or 8 of them, then there would be bylaws like you're thinking, and they'd have to meet, and there'd have to be notes, things like that. But this, you know, in addition to stormwater, there has to be plowing considerations. There has to be long-term maintenance considerations for the driveway. So it's not just the stormwater. I know that's what we're focused on here as part of the 9.6. But there are other maintenance considerations that this group of people are going to have to work with each other on, or they're not going to be able to coexist, which is going to be difficult in a private driveway situation. So all of those things are sort of itemized out as responsibilities of that group. Each deed is encumbered by that responsibility, and that's how it's coalesced.
The minimum requirement for an HOA, is it 5 or 6?
I don't remember.
I think it's 5,
Yeah.
but it could be 6.
Yeah.
Joe actually may even know, I don't know.
I was just, trying to address the comments. I think that this is the most reasonable way to go to create 3, 4 driveways. The problem just isn't solved. It becomes in some ways more disturbance, and it makes it harder to maintain the wetland buffer. So I say yes.
Kathy and I, yes, I'd say yes.
I mean, my general sense is I think what's being done is lovely, but we've been hamstrung by the zoning board, so. Aye.
With the deed restriction around this, I will vote yes.
Jesse, your eye?
Nay.
Driscoll, aye.
I do have a request beyond
Sure.
that now that we're done with the 9.6. In the application,
Everybody was yes except for one.
Oh, okay.
in the application agreement, it specifically notes that to post streets private until accepted by the town and provide and install street signs to approved by the selectmen of the town for all street intersections. And I know being it's a driveway that has 4 accesses off it, it has to have a street sign, but it will never be accepted as a town road or street, and so it shouldn't be identified in here as such. And also to give the town on demand proper deed for land of rights of way reserved on the plat for streets, drainage, or other purposes as agreed upon. It's not the town's responsibility to take that on and shouldn't be noted in here as such.
Right, I agree.
So that should be stricken.
What are you referencing?
It's in the application, it's application agreement, it's the 4th page in.
I see, okay, yeah. So you're simply stating that part of the application just doesn't apply to this project, yeah.
Right, but what I don't want to see is somebody come back and go before the select board and say that, hey, the planning board approved this and it's 4 uses, so it's deemed as a street, the town has to take it over.
Understood.
Even from the standpoint of the deeding for the potential owners, because they read it as, oh, it's a street, so the town could be requested to take it over, and that's not what it is.
Yeah, only the select board can approve that, of course, as you know.
But they shouldn't even have the opportunity to approve that because it's not a street.
I think that on this particular application, because they're actually asking for it to be a shared driveway, your approval can make it clear that it's a shared driveway and not a road. So therefore, that can't come back and bite the town in the future.
Okay, next we'll go to the waivers.
So we're gonna see that change made.
I don't know that there's any action item.
Just
other
the
than-
application. We haven't voted on the application
Okay,
yet.
but it
so-
will be put in
After.
the minutes.
Yeah, after we do the waivers, we'll
Yeah.
be voting to accept the application as complete. Raise that issue at that point. Okay, Chris.
So, Mr. Chair, how do you want me to handle the waivers? One at a time with a lengthy explanation?
No, just after each one, I'll open it up for comments by the board and then for the public. So
Okay.
just
So the first,
cite each one on your page.
so our first waiver request has to do with a 3-to-1 ratio, 11:2, 4. And in general, you have a lot to width, length to width ratio requirement of 3-to-1. In this particular case, the applicant has made a couple of the lots, the first two in particular, a little longer so that the building area extends to an area of the property that's really the best area for building, and it's beautiful up there. And so we're asking in this particular case that that requirement be waived. The fourth lot in the subdivision has a little more frontage, and so we quite readily meet the length to width ratio. And I think that this creates sort of a square rectilinear subdivision, despite the fact that the length to width isn't technically met.
Any comments by the board on this waiver request? Hearing none, I'll open it to public comment. Any in the public like to talk about this particular waiver? Nobody's online, right, Barbara?
People up there, but nobody's trying.
Nobody's waving. Okay. I've got the light reflection on that, so. Okay, closing public comment. Is there a motion to grant this waiver?
I just have a general comment, and I expressed this when the application first came in, that I'm sure it will be lovely, but there's so many waiver requests and so many approved hardships from the ZBA that I struggle with the fact that this plan could ever be approved in that sort of format.
Well, I think as part of our request that they not go with the additional 10,000 square foot impact on the buffer in a second driveway. And the nature of the driveway as it went up, even if it were a shared private road, the impact on the sides of the road would have been much deeper. The solution, and as the ZBA has noted, allowing for 4 driveways would reduce that somewhat. The right of way for a private road would be 30 feet. This is 22 feet wide. This is 22 feet as a private driveway.
Well, you're referring to the right-of-way width. Our
The full right of way,
yeah.
but when you put utilities and every corridor
Right.
in and so forth, be much bigger and.
I think to be clear, the ZBA's variance was just to have access not from their frontage. So there's no way you could do a 4-lot subdivision with one driveway and all of them have access from their frontage. So to keep saying the ZBA did this and it handcuffed you is actually, I think, a very bad statement. I mean, it's just access not from the frontage. That's the only one. All the rest of this stuff has got nothing to do with that ZBA variance.
Right, but when you look at the way the access is set, you have now created lots that are not contiguous, which does not comply with our zoning. They don't meet the shape, they're
Doesn't
not
comply with
contiguous.
subdivision either, so
It
we
does,
have-
yeah, it doesn't meet any of that.
Okay, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did read the minutes. They came in asking for 2 shared driveways coming in and then there would have been 2 lots side by side. So they wouldn't have need any of this stuff. They wouldn't have need that variance from the ZBA. And it was this board's decision that they preferred him to do 1 driveway instead of the 2 to eliminate the wetland impacts and everything else. So that wasn't the ZBA, that was this board.
And I believe I expressed all of that the first time it came
Oh,
through.
and that might be your opinion, but the whole board here makes the decision, not you. That's the,
Right, but I have a say, and I'm voicing my say as to what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is why our regulations end up becoming toothless, is because a hardship is not the need of a developer. That's not a hardship. And it, for anything, whether it's a 9.6 or what it is. And I think Joe puts together some great projects. They look beautiful, but this is why we keep twisting our regulations, is because we end up passing something through that doesn't comply with it and ends up being approved as such.
So you would have preferred the alternative, the second driveway and the.
I don't think either of them are.
Well, I'm looking for,
acceptable.
I mean, I agree with Andy. There's not two choices here, the previous one or this one.
Right.
If you comply with the regulations, you get approved. If you don't get approved. And we have a situation here where I agree with Andy. We have a ton of waivers on this. We don't have fee title land. We have access across somebody else's land. Mr. Jeffrey's petition, you just got approved, said you can't get access to property across a right of way. So, this has got a lot of problems. It's not this one or that one. You can say no too.
well, I think the board had asked them to come back with the waivers.
Not everybody.
I know, I understand that, but the majority of them did, so.
But this has been an ongoing issue that we need to address somehow with the ZBA, in my mind.
The
Not
ZBA
just
should
this application, right? It's an ongoing.
we still have authority here. The subdivision regulations
Right.
are ours.
Right.
That one ZBA decision does not mean we have to say anything one way or the other. We still have all the authority.
Understood.
Chris?
So of course, we're talking about a waiver for a 3-to-1 length to width ratio here, but we've sort of sidestepped into the rest of our application here. This board has approved no less than, I can think of 2, and there's likely more, 3, right off the top of my head, projects very similar to this. And I know Andy's sins of the past comment. I hear it already in my ear. But I don't know that just because a property has an easement across it, that it makes it any less enjoyable, that it makes it any less developable, that it makes it any less conforming with your regulations. We put easements across properties all over the state of New Hampshire, and we do that for various reasons. In this particular case, it's topographic. In other areas, it has to do with environmental. In other situations, it has to do with site distance, other life safety issues that come up. So to blindly say that our regulations say that you can't have an easement across a lot to access another lot, that I disagree with. I disagree with the fact that your regulations say that. In fact, I don't think that they do. And I don't think that they're intended for that purpose.
But Mr. Jeffrey put in a petition article that approved that it said exactly that.
Yeah, I think you have to understand the petition that Mr. Jeffries put together as it relates to you can utilize in the state of New Hampshire an easement to gain access to your land, but you may not be able to use that easement for other purposes. And to put a petition together that takes away somebody's property rights and takes away somebody's ability to gain access to their land over a dedicated easement is wrong. And will likely be challenged at some point.
Well, the Jeffries thing is not relevant to this case anyway.
I understand it was brought up twice now, and
Yeah, but
here
that
we are.
But this project came in before we changed our zoning, so. Now, on Young Road, we
Even
did,
in our zoning, you cannot break a lot and split it.
Yes, you can.
Where?
It says it's supposed to be in the shared board with the border.
Right,
Roads
it's a
are-
shared border, not a divided lot.
It doesn't say shared border anywhere.
It does.
And no, it doesn't. And in fact, I think the chairman's going to point out the 4th and 5th instance where this board encouraged this type of
they did.
development.
yeah, I mean, he's only responding to what we requested, so. And I think there were 5 votes at that time to do this.
Oh, no, there
I
was
know you
one,
were.
there was a dissenting vote, yes. It was one of
When was
these.
it could be?
Well, I remember him, right. Let me see if I'm following this correctly. On Young Road, we had 2 pods of 3 units each,
Yes,
and the driveway crossed
all of them.
all the lots. We
All
do
the
this all the time, right? We approve that.
Because it's limited to 3 as a driveway that complies
But
with
we're
our
giving them a
regulation.
waiver for the 4th.
Because
I mean,
we asked them to do this.
Yeah, we asked them to do this.
Because of the Conservation Commission
The
wanting.
wetlands impact was of such importance that we didn't want to see that. That we would do, we would grant them the fourth lot. And our new subdivision regulations have pods or clusters or groups of 4 lots. So we're gonna have to change our regulations, subdivision regulations, to comply with the new zoning, that these are 4 lots, a break, 4 lots and a break, probably with a private driveway.
Well, that says a proposed desire, that doesn't actually impact our subdivision, the
Well,
lot model. That's part of the desired, plan that everybody's been talking about, but it hasn't
Well, that's
actually been finalized into our regulation for these pods.
No, we haven't updated the subdivision regulations to do that.
Right, so it's not relevant.
No, I'm just saying,
Well, not for this one.
that's the desire that we agreed to with the
Just
zoning.
just to
that's all.
keep this meeting going forward, so we're not here till 1 o'clock in the morning, I think your points are all made. So if we could get back to the waiver request, and then as you members, you can vote on it. If you want to vote for it, fine. If you want to vote against it,
We
fine.
already started the vote. We had 1 yes. Marcus?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Joyce?
Capiello, yes.
Tessier, yes.
Driscoll, aye.
No chance for Ron.
Oh, I thought you did
Right
this
on
again.
past them.
No, go ahead. Okay, sorry.
Andy and Ron, no.
I was looking for the signal.
Well, yeah, I can do that rather than talking better.
All right, next waiver. Please.
I think this might have been the waiver we wanted to fight about. 11.2.1 parens 1 lot clarity. It is my personal opinion that we don't need that waiver, but we've asked for it. Our lots are square, rectilinear, people clearly know where they own. It'll be monumented as such. But it was discussed at one of the last planning board meetings that because we have an easement that goes through it, that the lot clarity may be in question. And so I've asked for that waiver.
Okay.
I've made my opinion known about it.
We appreciate your opinion. That's why we have a 7-member board.
Did you want to get public comment for your vote on this waiver?
Yeah. I'm going to open it to public comment. The board has no more comments on this. Anybody like to comment on this particular waiver? Okay, hearing none, close public comment. Motion to grant the waiver.
Second.
Roll call.
Jack and I.
Half-net.
Capiello, aye.
Tessier, aye.
Howard, name.
Let's go on. Okay, what's
Andy and
Ron and Andy?
Third is 12.1.6 access shared by more than 3 lots. Again, this is a direct result of our last request
Okay,
to allow for access of 4 on a shared driveway.
okay, any comments before I open it to public comment? Anybody like to speak to this? Just raise your hand. Hearing none. Close public comment. Is there a motion to grant this waiver?
I'll make a motion to grant this waiver.
Okay, I'll second it. Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Jack and I.
Not fine.
Capiello, aye.
Tessier, aye.
Howard, name.
Driscoll, aye.
12.2.6 road design standards, table 1. This is a waiver request that came from the last planning board meeting. Essentially, we're requesting to utilize driveway standards and not the table 1 that would otherwise require the roadway standards.
Good comment before I open it up.
I had a comment in the beginning, we talked about that I think it's really a private road more than a driveway.
Right. I'm opening a public comment. Anybody like to comment on this? Hearing none, closing public comment. Is there a motion to grant this waiver?
I'll make a motion to grant this waiver.
Second it.
Roll call, please.
Shepherd, aye.
Back and I.
Cavanagh.
Capello, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Allard, nay.
Driscoll, aye.
12.4.1, there's a phrase inside of that regulation that talks about common drives servicing more than 3 lots. I think it's a consistency thing throughout your regs. So here again, we're asking for that waiver based on your request of us.
Okay, any comments before I open it up? And open it up for public comments. Seeing none, closing public comment. Is there a motion to grant this waiver? I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Back and I.
Yay, because it's compliant. It aligns with the previous one that I agreed on.
Capello, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Allard, nay.
Driscoll, aye.
The last one is 12.4.2, common drives on common boundary lines. This regulation discusses the desire, when possible, to have them on common boundary lines. Clearly here, we don't for topographic reasons.
Okay. Any comment?
Just that it's not a desire. The regulation reads shall. Not may, not should, shall.
Motion? I'll make that motion to grant the waiver. Seconded by anybody? Joyce, thank you. Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Back and I.
Nay.
Capello, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Allard, nay.
Driscoll, aye. Okay. Okay, next we have to accept the application as complete. Oh,
It's already been done.
what's that?
We've already accepted the application as complete.
Oh, we did.
Yes.
Well, we have that edits that we want to take care of about the streets. And that was part of the application.
When was that
Did we
done?
amend it or something to get rid of those?
It can be noted in the notice of decision.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You have any comments, John?
Okay, so there's not a draft notice of decision because it wasn't put together. But I think that if you go consistently for what you've done in the past, you would want to have on the notice of conditional approval based on adding the notes that the 9.6 was granted and all the waivers granted on the plan to be consistent with it. And then maybe have something on the plan that states that this is a private drive and not a private road.
Okay.
It's a shared driveway, not private drive, shared driveway and not a private road to make it so it's clear that that's what the planning board approved.
Yep.
And I think the rest of it would just be your normal everyday things that, you normally do to, they gotta have the final stamp on the thing from the engineer and all the other stuff that typically would have.
I would also like to make sure that it is very clear in the deed that the sediment basins are accounted for in their maintenance plan, their stormwater maintenance plan, as well as the ongoing maintenance responsibilities that tie to that.
So the maintenance agreement that would be, usually that's what gets referenced in the deed is a maintenance agreement. So just make sure the maintenance agreement states that it's not just the plowing and maintenance of the roadway, but also all the drainage.
Right, because they have a stormwater they have a stormwater maintenance plan for
Did you get that?
what they put together, and it should be captured.
Right, so to make sure that that stormwater stuff is all managed and maintained according to the maintenance agreement.
Yes, because it's more than a road maintenance at that point. The driveway maintenance, sorry, not road, driveway. The driveway maintenance is one aspect of it, but the stormwater maintenance plan is almost its own entity.
But you want it to be part of the agreement that
Yes.
is referenced, correct?
Question, John. So then who monitors that?
There is no monitoring, it's no different than any other private driveway in town. Every Even your long driveways, whether they're shared or not, usually has some type of drainage thing that you have to account for and maintain. I got a long driveway. I just don't happen to have any culverts and stuff. Where I'm building my house now, I got a short driveway, but I got a culvert and there's a catch basin and the whole bit that I got to maintain. So it isn't necessarily a long driveway or multiple people with it. It's just, it's your responsibility of the owner on it. I mean, even if you go strictly by our regulations, the culvert out at the roadway, if something happens to that culvert or it's plugged up, it's the homeowner's responsibility to fix it. It's not the town's responsibility, even though it's in the town's right of way.
Thanks for that
He
clarification.
says that if there was a problem, somebody would come first to the homeowners. If they're unsuccessful with that, they would come to the town, and then the town would force them to do.
Well, what happened is it will come to the town, all of them come into my office. Well, I retired, so Jamie's office now, but all complaints come in there. Usually what happens when that comes through, we reach out to one of the owners out there, or usually it's one of the owners coming in. And usually that comes into being a civil issue. It's not a town issue because it's their agreement that they have with each other about maintaining that. So like I said, the whole thing really comes into a civil issue. So the town's not gonna call them up and say, you have to fix this because we don't have legal authority to make them fix it because it's private property.
By ensuring that it's clearly delineated in the deed, though, it gives, if there's a problem with the group, like everybody's like.
Yeah, it makes it clear that we all have shared responsibilities and have to do it. Yeah.
It gives the person that has the issue with it the ability not only to fight it, but also recover their costs and expenses.
Our town planner starts on Monday.
So just the,
So maybe,
so,
we want to have a formal notice of decision with
No, I'd
condition
like a
precedent.
decision tonight, and I think we can craft.
I think we can craft one easy enough based on those things. So the other point I just wanted to make sure that as a board, the decision on the maintenance agreement of the infrastructure that goes along with the road, is that something that you want reviewed by who? To make sure that it says that.
Well, it was reviewed by CMA.
Did you want CMA to review the design? I mean, they're engineers. So what I'm saying is on the maintenance thing that you're talking about, you want to make it clear their maintenance thing that that's going to be in the deed. Yeah, so
Should our town attorney look at
Yeah,
it?
Laura has reviewed that in the past. On other projects, Laura has. reviewed
So you want the town's attorney to review that to make sure that that is covered in that as part of your decision. That's,
I would prefer that.
Okay, sounds good. Everybody agree to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're crafting a notice of decision?
I think based on what we just discussed here, I can put that together for you tomorrow and, well, and then we can have it. We'll actually send if you can get your maintenance agreement over so we can send it off to Laura.
Okay.
And then we can have all that other stuff together. And then when those things are all done, then we can call you and you can come in and sign the plan like we typically do.
Okay. So we're gonna make a motion to grant notice of decision. Is there a second?
Well, conditional approval.
Conditional approval, right?
Based on those other things that we talked about all being added and done, because the minutes are going to reflect all those conditions. Instead of repeating them all again. Oh, I pretty much, yeah, I got a good grip on what you were looking for.
This is-
The edits.
This is new territory, folks, new territory, so. I'll make that motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, Bob, second it, roll call.
Check it out.
Jack and I.
Nay.
Happy LOI.
Tessie, aye.
Allard, nay.
Fiscal eye. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Enjoy your night. Mr. Chair, the next case, I don't know if Barbara let you know or not, we don't need an extension. We'll be in.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be in
Right.
tomorrow
John
with the
mentioned
final
that to
plans.
us. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
So going forward with the next case?
What's that?
Are we going
Are
forward?
we going forward with the next case?
DeVerto didn't need an
He
extension.
doesn't need an extension
Because he got
anymore.
his approval.
Now we just have these two,
Oh,
private road ones. The next case is, Category 3, Option 2, Class 6 private road application on 114 Flower Drive, map 112, lot 21. Please come forward. Good evening.
You guys all should have got this handed out to you tonight about what he decided to do to the road that came in after your packages were put together.
Yeah, Jamie sent out an email to everybody
Yeah, and
too.
I also copied it, so you should have had it.
Okay, yeah, this, the list, right. Thanks. Hello.
Okay, good evening. My name is Tim Furwerda. I'm representing Norman Carpenter tonight. And this is for access on a private road to the lot that he owns on Flower Drive. And I think he's agreed to do some road improvements. He sent me an email today that outlines what he's doing. And, you know, the improvements he's going to make on the road will benefit everybody on the road. So he's willing to do that. Anything else you want to discuss about the access on this road?
Does this project include a new septic?
Yes.
Does.
Yeah, we have the septic approval.
Is there a new septic being put in as part of this project?
Yes.
Okay.
We have that approval from the state.
Yeah, the note we got from the zoning administrator is that the only way what we really have to look at is the scope of work for the proposed road. So that's kind of our job.
Yeah.
We will send a note to the select board.
It's a selectman's policy on the private road after comment from the planning board. So that's, basically, it's almost like no different than the department head. You would be looking at it. Do you know something about the area that's going on with other subdivisions or site reviews that would make an impact to the selectman's decision on it basically coming through? And then what you have done in the past is looked at the selectman's policy to see if this complies with the policy. And the scope of work before was a little different. The new scope of work actually exceeds the 10% that was in the selectman's policy now. But you still have to go through your process to say that you recommend what he's doing or not as part of your recommendations.
Right. So you would
Would you
think
like me
that
to
the
read
scope.
what that is?
Excuse me?
Would you like me to read what his proposal is?
Well, they all have it here in writing, and this is all going to go to the select board technically is the one that makes the final decision because it's their policy.
Right.
And the planning board has to make comments before they can. That's how the process works because RSA 674-41.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to know, is this work actually worth $15,000? I know at the last meeting, Bob, you questioned whether the price of the house was undervalued and the work. So I would like some input from members of the board. Does this sound like $15,000 worth of work?
The price of the house is definitely
It was
undervalued.
way undervalued, yeah.
So I'm wondering if this does truly represent 10%, that renovation.
Repaving the road is also $20,000, right?
Right, so.
Yeah, so there's more than $15,000 worth of work.
I'm raising. What is the real cost of the renovation? And then he's giving us a quote of 15,000, and I'm asking some of you who are builders, does the two culverts represent $15,000? Because it's not any detailed scope of work here.
It's not a renovation, it's a new house.
Yeah, so as far as the scope of work on the road, what has been done in the past for that dollar amount is we relied on the town's road agent because this is his expertise to know if I had to get this done, this is what it would cost, so to know if it's relevant or not. And I think that.
Since this came to us today, has he reviewed this? Probably not.
Mark.
No, well, this is actually reflective of the scope of work that was talked about before that was asked to be done by Mark.
I know, but
This
there were
is
no.
from the
no
road
money.
agent on Flower Drive too.
Pardon?
He's the one that
I
asked if
know,
all
I'm
this
just
would be done.
questioning the
And at
cost.
the
of it.
top, you'll see that Norman agreed to everything on there.
On the building application, it said cost of construction is $250,000. Now, there is.
It's supposed to be just for the house. It's not what a house would sell for. So it's not the land value that's on the lake and all your site work. It's supposed to be just the house value. So if you look at just house value, not land value, not site work and all the other stuff, that's how that value is. So I would, if you look at the cost of building a house, the 250 to 300,000, because what was it? It was like 2,000 square foot house would be relatively in the ballpark for just building the house per se. I mean, Bob, we probably can attest to a similar ballpark if you look at just construction of the house.
And the application also has a line there that says building inspector's estimated cost of constructions. So if they don't agree with what the applicant says, you can put in your estimate.
Well, technically Jamie could now with the whole
Well,
thing.
right, yeah.
So I think
The
what you,
building department
what you
could.
could do is say that we recommend that this goes to the select board with, to highlight, to get a true cost of building the house and a true cost of what that road work is worth. So the selectmen can determine whether or not it meets the 10%. And I think if you guys concur with it, that you think it should be done if it met the 10% threshold, and that could be your recommendation to the select board.
Okay, is there a motion to send the letter to the, go ahead, Barbara.
If you total those two, that's 35,000.
I know.
Right, so that'd be like a 350,000.
350,000.
Estimate as well as the work. I like the way John worded it.
Yeah, because if you look at what he's proposing is 35,000, which would be a $350,000 house bill, not what a house would sell for, because those other items aren't part of what the construction cost is.
That's $175 per square foot. Not bad.
So I think it's in the ballpark for what it is, but you, as a board, if you're worried about the dollar amounts, you could just make your recommendation of the selectmen that you feel that it's appropriate as long as they meet the 10% that's part of the policy.
Anybody gonna make a motion to forward the letter to the select board?
Did you want to open it up for public comment first? Because we haven't.
I guess we
done
could do that. Okay, public comment on this application?
I guess I'll go up first.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Kevin Brigham.
Oh, you're road agent, the local road agent.
I'm the president of Flower Drive Road Association. Is that coming through okay for you guys?
Yep.
All right, so I'm totally confused. I just got thrown into this about a week ago. And so I saw the comments that there was a reference to a May 6th meeting that required Mr. Carpentier to meet or to provide a revised proposal based on work which included the road association's input. So, okay, so I haven't seen this one. This is brand new. So I got in touch with Mr. Carpentier, and he basically submitted the proposal that he had already previously submitted, which included an easement of $18,960, work to enlarge the ditches on both sides of Flower Drive for a cost of $7,000, cleaning and removal of debris on the other side, about $3,000, and paving an apron in front of his property. So, haven't seen this one at all, so I can't even comment on it.
Well, the new one, if you read it right now, that's what he's proposing, and that's what that's what came to this board, and that's what's going to be going on to the select board if they see that it meets the 10%.
Isn't this what you asked for? What's on here?
Which one?
What's
The
on-
new one we just gave you.
These items you requested.
When you talked to him?
I did talk to him. Well, let me back up a little bit. So if you remember me, we had the issue with with Alex Pear. He owned the property that now Dave Best purchased, which is at the very end of Flower Drive. And I met with Mark Moreau because of the 10%. That was kind of a new requirement to do, improvements for private roads, et cetera. So I met with Mark Moreau, and we came up with a laundry list of all the work that could be done to Flower Drive to improve it for you all and for anybody else that's involved in these issues. So part of it was the paving, because to remind you, we also have a grant from the state, which expires the end of July, which is putting in 2 culverts on the existing line that goes across Mr. Carpentier's property. So there's no direct flow of water coming from the mountainside and the edge of the road dumping straight into Flower or into Nippo Lake. And if you're not familiar, we of course got a state grant a while ago, and the rest of the residents on the entire lake chipped in to do the treatment to the lake for cyanobacteria and all that other algae bloom stuff. So this is basically in support of that particular work. So we do have a grant to do the culvert work. So so that's why I'm a little confused over the new proposal, because I just talked to Mr. Carpentier and he said, I'm still good with the proposal that he put in, which is no different than the one, I guess he's amended it. I haven't seen it.
Sorry. For clarification, the $15,000 for the two 12-inch culverts is covered under your grant?
Correct.
It is? That's not a separate culvert? Interesting.
We have two culverts that basically are going to go into the existing pipeline. There's no culvert there right now, just a drainage ditch and stone.
This is for the abutting Drew property?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I believe,
So
This is one of the
Information to
difficulties
me.
when we get things so late that the
Exactly.
public cannot look at this, because we don't know exactly.
I just spoke to Norman, and I spoke to him again, well, because I know Friday was the deadline to get the input into you all. So I was running around willing to do anything basically to help him up to push his building permit forward. So he just said that he wanted to go forward with his previous proposal, which is the total different one on the easement. So
He was willing to do what the other one was that they talked about, but
that's the
because there was pushback on the last meeting about we don't want his easements and the drainage stuff, that he said, okay, then I'll do the work to the road. He was trying to appease the association, is what my understanding was.
Okay, well, see, I've been the president for the last 13 years. I've even introduced myself. I stopped at his property, introduced who I am and all that other stuff. Emails go out regularly. I have a meeting scheduled, our annual meeting on the 18th of this month. So even in the application, I don't know, Linda was involved or something, or mentioned in there, Kevin Fitzgerald was mentioned.
They came to the last meeting and said that they didn't want his easement and all the other stuff. That's the reason why he came up. Yeah.
Do we just need more time for everyone to review this?
I think that the whole concept, because this has already come in front of you twice, is to make the recommendation to the select board that he meets the 10% and let the select board, the road association, the town's road agent, all work out to see that that 10% is met. Because as far as this board, there's no other issues on the road other than making sure that it meets the 10%. And I think if that's how this board feels, you can kick it and let them work it out. Because for them to work it out and come back to you, so you can say, okay, it's just wasting your time. Exactly.
Right, this could go on forever, and it's really, 10% is 10%. Allow us to do work with the road agent and Mr. Carpentier and us, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I would just ask the applicant to clarify, I'm not sure if these two culverts are separate from the one that is in the grant, or if it's the same. I would want clarification.
They're the same culverts. So if they've got money to pay for the culverts, you can take this $35,000 and do more work to the road.
Exactly. Right. So I'll make sorry.
We're going to close public comment.
I'll make a proposal to move this forward to the select board to allow the select board to work out with the road association, the developer, the clarification of the 10 and the road agent, the clarification of the 10% and how it's applied.
Okay, I did close public comment, so is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, but I'll point out the policy says it's all should be worked out before it gets here. And time and time again, it's not. So at some point, we got to put our foot down and say, this stuff's got to be done ahead of time.
Regular applications have to be in 21 days before the meeting.
I will rescind my proposal if you would prefer.
I got one of these things 3 p.m. Yesterday, I think.
Yeah, there's no public notice for the planning board hearing on the class 6 and private road. The public notice goes out when the selectmen hold the hearing. You guys are just making recommendations to the select
I'm
board.
just saying we should get information maybe a week before.
Well, most of the time you had it before that. And the reason why he changed
Did it this
everything, I
morning
know,
with an email from Jamie.
but the reason why he changed everything is what he proposed, because what he proposed before exceeded the 10%. But because of the last meeting and controversy with the road association with Linda and Fitzgerald were in here, they felt like we wanted something different. So then he says, okay, if you want the difference, here's what it is. After talking to you, he figured this was the work that had to be done on the road. So he said, I got no problem paying the 10%. Tell me what I want me to do. So he wrote up what he believed he was supposed to do. Because even the other one before, I mean, how much is that easement even worth? I mean, we talked about that a lot of times when we developed that Clifton private road. I mean, he may want to go back to doing all the stuff he did in the first place. It's just a matter of them guys working it all out.
Yeah.
So this is going to come before select board, and I do sit on select board, and I'm confused, so I would like not to be confused when this application comes to the select board. I need to know if this proposal with 2 culverts is the plan that is already going to be covered by the grant that has been secured, or if this is separate 2 culverts.
No, they're the same culverts.
Okay, so then
So he's not contributing money.
Right.
Well, he's
because the
contributing,
grant is already,
I think he has to contribute 10%, correct?
Correct.
but if the grant is paying for the
I'm sorry, go ahead,
culverts,
Joyce.
then
Well,
that's.
I guess what I'm saying is you can
sound right
use
to
the
me.
money that you're gonna save on the culverts to do more work on the road.
But I don't see
That's
that.
not how the policy works. The road, the town wants upgrades to the road. They don't want money paid into the association. They want to make sure the road is systematically upgraded. That's the reason why they want 10% of the value of the work done, not just hand money to an association.
Right, and,
Oh, you want a bond.
and the grant's already been approved by the state, so we have to stay within the limits of what we applied for the grant monies. So we have to spend it, or use that money for the culverts.
So just bring that clarity when this application comes.
Okay.
I know,
Hello,
you're
can you
getting
hear
thrown in
me?
the middle of this too, so, yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to see, are you talking about a bond or actual cash dollars?
He has to make,
Execution.
right, he has to make $15,000 worth of improvements
Okay.
to replace this portion of road improvements.
Right.
And the
And it can't be
repaving,
where they're getting a grant to already pay for it, because
Well-
then he doesn't have to pay anything.
Well, then I guess what I'm saying
Can you
is
hear me?
you're gonna have $35,000 to
someone's
do something.
No,
Public comments.
they're not gonna have any money. He has to do the improvements. It's
There's
his,
someone wants.
it's Norm's responsibility to get the work done
Right.
and pay for it. Not give anybody money, not do anything, but we have to approve, or the selectman has to approve what the work is.
There's at least one person online that would like to speak, please.
All right, I'm reopening public comment.
well, can I just mention before he does?
Do you know who it is? Okay.
No, I don't know who that is, but, no, but the repaving was the Alex Pear, improvement that we all agreed to before, so I see that on there, and that's completely acceptable.
Well, that other, because of how the policy works, after talking to the town's attorney, because that was approved, that work has to be done by him. So that permit is still valid when they come in to pull a building permit, and the people have been talking to us about coming in and pulling that building permit. So when they do, that's when that paving will get done from them.
I'm not talking about in front of his property, I'm talking about the slope.
Right, but that was the one on the Pear property, and that permit can still be issued when they come in to get it. So if you take the work off of theirs and you say this guy's gonna pay for it, that's gonna affect the other one, and the other one's all been approved for that work, that scope of work. So you can't, then he doesn't come back in for a hearing, because that was already what was approved for his permit.
All right. I've got you.
Hello?
I get a hold of Norm tomorrow and have him
Hello?
clarify what that is.
Yeah, hold on a
That's
second, sir. We're not
13,000.
gonna forget you.
And that way it can go to the select board with the right answer.
Okay, and Mark could review it also.
Okay, opening public comment. Somebody's online. Please state your name.
Yes, hello,
and
it's
address.
Kevin Fitzgerald, 334 Flower Drive, counsel to the Lake Association. And I've been trying to get in here, I don't know if I've been muted, but there's been a number of statements, and with all due respect to John, a lot of it is incorrect. The last meeting, Mr. Carpentier was confronted with a number of facts, including those remarks of the road agent with respect to what he proposed to do, many of which weren't road improvements. None of those were discussed with the Road Association. We've just heard from Kevin Brigham, the president of the Road Association, that it took a phone call from him a couple of days ago before there was a contact, and that phone conversation ended up with Mr. Carpentier telling him he wasn't making any changes from the last meeting. He wanted to go ahead. Well, none of that has anything to do with road improvement. Now there is an 11th hour document that none of us have seen, which turns on apparently some valuation of services he wants to provide for road improvements. And I have to say that as a matter of law, under the agreements that control the maintenance of the Flower Drive right-of-way, the Flower Drive Road Association, an individual doesn't get the right to go start digging in his part of the road where he has frontage, or lay asphalt, or lay culverts. Those are matters that fall to the Flower Drive Road Association. You have your president, Mr. Brigham, right there. So any proposal where he's going to, quote unquote, provide services, not money, that is not consistent with how jointly shared right-of-ways managed by road associations are handled. And where we are today is exactly where we were at the last meeting, which is we have an applicant who is at the 11th hour essentially trying to say, I don't have to do anything except I'll do this culvert, I'll do that culvert, none of which we have any opportunity to evaluate because he didn't take advantage of the last 2 months to have a substantive conversation with detailed descriptions and valuations that we could then come to this meeting to discuss. Instead, we're going to get ramrodded through now to the planning board without any of that having been done based on a series of inaccurate assessments of where the obligations fall with respect to the maintenance of Flower Drive and how to satisfy the contributions that an individual homeowner such as Mr. Carpentier occurs.
Well, thank you very much for your
I
comments.
just want to say in closing that all of this could be avoided if this particular applicant, instead of ready, fire, aiming, or showing up at these meetings at the 11th hour with documents that nobody has seen.
Sir, you're exceeding your 3 minutes. Thank you. Closing public comment. This is going to go to the.
No, don't close public comments. I haven't spoken.
Oh, there's another person here.
Yeah, there's another person here. I'd like to give my 3 minutes and cede it to Kevin Brigham, please. I'm Matt Corngoose, my wife Susan. We're in a butter of the property. I'd like to cede my time to Kevin Brigham.
Name again, please. We didn't hear it. And your address, please.
Matt and Susan Corngoose, 128 Flower Drive. We're in a butter directly north of the property in question.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes, sir. Please.
We want to give it to Kevin.
You want to hand it to him? You've already told us all this.
Matt, I'm pretty much done, and Kevin Fitzgerald just reiterated.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to cede my time to Kevin Fitzgerald, please.
Oh, okay. Not Brigham. I know there's 3 Kevins on that road.
Never got batteries.
The only closing comment I would add to the things I've said is that I do specifically challenge the notion that an individual homeowner can show up at a municipal board and propose as an exclusive means of satisfying the town's policy that he himself will donate his services to road improvement. And there are a number of issues with that, not the least of which are the qualifications of that individual to perform those services, as opposed to hiring professionals or designated road maintenance folks who currently work for the road association. And so if there's going to be a road improvement to the Flower Drive right-of-way, it needs to be done professionally and to standards that would control the maintenance of any valuable right-of-way, over which, for example, fire and rescue and police responders would travel. And we are not agreeing that individual homeowners who come to buy property along Flower Drive have any legal right to substitute their services, some of them amateur, not aligned with the maintenance standards or plans of the Flower Drive Road Association, for those of the association. That I think is substantively and legally incorrect, and the board that is the Board of Selectmen and this board, by way of recommendation, should support that, because the alternative is this mishmash of amateur contributions of services with, frankly, specious valuations hung on them, so they never actually have to part with any actual financial equivalent of their obligation of 10%.
Thank you. Are you finished?
I am. Thank you for your time.
All right. Do you have any questions for me? Because I'm done too.
Okay, thank you.
Just as part of the discussion, what came up about is the authority to do the work in the road. So if Mr. Carpenter feels that because of his deeded rights, that he has a right to do the work in the road, I think he should submit that evidence to the select board. Or that way it's clear whether he can do the work or not, so that the select board, when they go to make their decision, they know who has the right to work in the roadway for what it is.
Well, I just like, I think personally, I'm not a fan of the whole Class 6 road thing. I've been vocal about that.
Agree.
But in this circumstance, I don't think he's even come close to meeting the intent of the policy, where there's such a question about the 15,000 being something that could be grant money. In my opinion, I think we should be making a recommendation to the select board that this is not approved based upon lack of information supplied to us and the value not meeting. And that's what our role is here as a planning board, is just to give a recommendation. And then the select board can do, if they get new information given to them, so be it. But our recommendation, in my opinion, would be to not approve.
So I will rescind my recommendation to move it forward to the select board and let them sort it out and defer to Bob's
So we're still gonna
Well,
make
we're
a
still moving it
recommendation.
forward to the select board,
But
but
I'll
it would
just-
just be not to approve it.
Right, defer to your language.
And I think Bob's suggestion is per the policy. This is also to be worked out before it comes to us. And work with the road association, because the right to do the work in the right of way is vested with the road association, and they have to get that approval. And it doesn't seem like that's been in place.
And we did ask at the last meeting that the applicant do that. And that
Right.
is-
We did, yeah, we
We
had
did.
discussed that a lot, yeah.
And I got the email from Mr. Carpentier to my email, May 1st, with his previous proposal, yet he sends you a new one this morning, and I'm not even CC'd.
Who gave Jamie this information?
No,
His
he doesn't
email,
know anything
Carpentier's
about it.
email's on the top.
With my general correspondence that I send out to all members of the road association, they know the history of what goes on the road. Because I keep everybody informed, like with Mr. Alex Pear.
Somebody gave Jamie this information.
Yeah, Mr.
This is-
Carpentier.
Carpentier.
No, I don't think,
Thank you very much, James. I'm good with that. So I don't, this information came from somebody else.
That was Norm.
Norman responding to,
Norm.
yeah, it is.
Norman's
It's Norman
response.
responding to Jamie.
Only thank him for Jamie.
Jamie's
This is
telling
what
them
they
you gotta
want.
say what you wanted to do. That's what he-
it was the other way around.
No, 15,000.
This email here was generated from
Yeah.
James Jennison.
Him, and then, yeah, and then Norman agreeing to it.
He agreed to it.
I sent an email to Mr. Carpentier on what
That-
Alex Pear was going to do for the road association, which is now
Is that
owned by
how you
Dave
read it?
Might have
Bass.
been Mark gave Jamie comments, and that's where Jamie got it from. I don't know.
There's too much information missing.
Yeah, it's,
Well, let them,
it needs.
it'll all be settled at the select board.
I would prefer we work it out here and have a clear.
Well, I don't know what
There's
the work
nothing
is
for
for us to work out.
Right.
We give a recommendation to the select board. We're here to give a recommendation.
I
Can't we
agree.
bounce it back? Say it's not right for our recommendation?
I would say our recommendation to the select board is this is an incomplete.
That's what that was my recommendation.
I would say. we won't-
Approve or deny,
We
we
could say,
deny.
we could say we don't make a
Deny it
recommendation,
because
it's not ready.
approved.
That's our recommendation.
Okay.
I think
And if
We
they
should clear-
can provide more information that satisfies the select board, that's their decision.
Good catch, Barbara.
Well, and as Mr. Driscoll mentioned, that if the paving is really tied to now Mr. Best's, approval, we can't do the paving with Mr. Carpentier. So we have to select another one of our projects, which we have it's a list of about 4 or 5 projects.
I'll second Bob's motion.
Roll call.
Nap aye.
Capiello, aye, but I would encourage the applicant to come to select board with an agreement between the road agent and the applicant as to the
And the
scope of
association.
work and the
Road
association.
When is the next select board meeting?
Well, next week, but I don't know that you're gonna.
Well, they gotta get the recommendation given to the administration, and then they gotta have a week to give out notices to the abutters before they can hear it. So I'm not sure when the next select board meeting is it? So it'll probably be a June meeting before they get to hear this because of the timing? Because I know, you meet once a month now, right?
I think June, we still need 20.
Let's finish the vote.
When you meeting in May?
Allard,
Sorry.
Driscoll, aye. Deny it?
recommendation to deny.
They don't support it because of
Recommendation.
lack of information. They don't support it because of lack of information.
And that was all unanimous vote.
Agreed to scope is not in place.
Next.
We have the next.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
We could almost make
Taking
this
a
by
bio
8 o'clock.
break.
Let's roll.
This one is easier.
All right.
I think that came from,
That, good catch, Barbara.
I do, I think it. So, Norman needs
But we don't know that.
Yeah.
$1,000 worth of work.
Who's representing the next one?
Oh,
But just-
What are you doing? You got another one.
Yeah,
I know.
That's what I'm saying, there's nobody here.
who's representing the next one?
Maybe they're online.
Maybe they're just in the hallway.
I am online.
Nope, he's
He's
online.
online.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Hi, my name's Philip Collins of 353 Holiday Lake Shore
Excuse
Drive.
me, we need to do
Sorry.
something about the volume.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can we turn this
for
up
sure.
some?
John doesn't know how to do it, that's his
Should we just
Is
go
that
Vanessa,
better?
can you please turn the volume up?
Hurry up, John.
Is there does he have a laptop or something over there?
No, he's not using one.
So how are we?
Could you put one of the mics close to the TV?
Right there.
Yeah, but
right over here.
do you know how to operate it? With the TV?
Volume
Should
up.
be just volume, right? Well, you hope so.
Turn off the mute.
Excuse me, can you speak again?
Yep. Hello, my name is Philip Collins. Can you guys hear me?
Sounds better.
Yeah,
It's slightly
A little
better.
better? All right. I'll try to speak loudly. Hopefully you can hear me.
Okay.
My name's Philip Collins of 353 Holiday Lake Shore Drive. We're looking to build a garage addition on our house, and as part of that, because we live on a private road, we'd like to do some road updates, and we've been working with our road association president and also the road agent for Barrington, and have come up with a plan to properly crown the hill.
Okay.
And I think we're just looking for your approval to move forward.
Can I summarize what I think you said? Because it's been difficult to hear on this end. I think you said the road association and you, the applicant and the road agent, have all agreed on a plan.
That's right. Yep.
Thank you.
Is this in the shoreline? Is this in shoreline protection? No?
I don't
No,
believe so. They're
no, it's not
about
close to
side
the
of it.
water.
The first part of the road they're talking about is way away from the water. It's way more than 250 away from the water.
Yeah.
In that road.
Closer to like quarter of a mile or half a
Long
mile.
ways, yeah.
Yeah, it's a long way. All right, anybody have any questions? Let's see, road agent has A lot of comments here.
The only thing that I saw out of it was the 10% piece again, and like it just seemed light.
So, we have done road work on the culvert. We had a bad problem with the culvert overflowing. So that was recent work that we just did. We also added stone this year as well.
I don't know if we give credit for.
Cost of
We've
construction.
talked about that. We've talked about that.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I don't remember us doing that.
Okay.
But
On this particular one, it looks like they're gonna make it come to the road standard anyways, and if it meets the road standard, there is no dollar amount.
Right.
Because it
Right.
meets the standard.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, or are there other areas where you could spread more of that work out? Is what I would say.
Well, the way the regulations work is 50 feet past the driveway, so if it gets 50 feet past his drive, it meets the standard when they come in to 50 feet past the driveway, then it stops no matter what because of the way our policy's written.
Yeah,
The less 10%.
I was just knowing the length of that road. I wasn't quite sure if the whole thing met the road standard or.
I'm pretty sure that most of that's 20 foot wide all the way down to where you make the corner to turn down to the lake.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times. It's
Yep.
mostly. I know that in the winter time, that hill can be.
And they, Karen Gould actually ended up fixing down around the corner right there because it was already good all the way down to that point when she came in. That was a few months back.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yep.
Okay, any more, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Nope.
I'd make a recommendation that we forward this to the select board to approve it as written.
I'll second that.
Shepherd, aye.
Cat can I?
Nap eye.
Capiello, aye, and I just want to thank you for doing the work ahead of time and bringing it.
Yes, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Policy? Tessie, your eye.
Driscoll, aye. Thanks. Thanks. Good evening.
Thank you.
Item number 6, vote for chair and vice chair. I'm open nominations for chair.
I nominate John for chair.
John
I'll second
Huckins.
that.
John Huckins? For chair?
I think you have to be specific.
I can't serve on the planning board because of the way our zoning's written.
Oh, okay. Other nominations, please.
I'm seconding or thirding.
I already got it.
Thirding.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Marcus, the last time I went to the bathroom, when I came back, they congratulated me.
And he's been
Watch
there ever
out.
since.
As you're here for a while.
Getting better, John. We're doing it to your face now.
All right, I guess I'll accept that nomination. Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Cat can I?
Nap eye.
Capiello, aye.
Tessie, your eye.
Alan, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Why not? Last time
I make a
right.
motion for Ron Allard to be vice chair.
Second.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Shepherd, aye.
Cat can I?
Nap eye.
Capiello, aye.
Tessie, your eye.
Alan, aye.
Right, unanimous around.
I thought you were gonna vote against it for a minute.
Thinking about it.
Okay, item 7, motion to adjourn.
Did you want to talk about this bill that you asked her to print out?
Oh, yeah, we could do that. If anybody's interested, things on here are,
I appreciate you doing it. I think it's good information to share.
well,
That's the whole discussion. Now we can adjourn.
All right.
Yep.
good, yeah.
I actually think it is really good information.
So the hearing was this morning, so it's probably too late to use the online system to go in and add a vote.
Yeah, a lot of those were, the
I think
committee,
there was 2 of them here today.
and I think it was like 4 of them actually,
Shut down,
because they
I
were
think.
gonna go through, starting
There
at
was
10
two-
a.m.
There was 2 of the zoning ones that were.
Oh,
Yeah.
one is Thursday.
One of
One's
these
Wednesday.
was 50-foot frontage maximum. So 2 acres would put you a third of a mile down.
Yeah.
I think we discussed
So
this.
it's a 2.5
3
acre
acres.
passes and the
3
50-foot frontage
acres.
passes, you're 3 to 1.
And 3
lot
acres, but
ratio
they're gonna get rid of
would
3
throw it out the
acres
window.
probably.
Right.
Max will be 2 acres. But we have a plan, we can split the town almost in half and keep 3 acres on part of the general residential. The rest would default to the 2 if that passes. make you happy at least.
So it says more than half of the town is what it
I
says.
think I figured it out like 17,500 acres would be 3.
Yeah, so if you did
So
something
it
like your general residential be 3 acres, in your
Yeah.
neighborhood be 2.5 acres.
2.5.
And then that
Yep.
would kind of cover you.
Yeah, that would make sense. If we're gonna get
Forced.
get it stuck to us,
The
we might as well.
the only thing that might change that mathematically wise, because when we did the affordable housing thing, we had to take out all water bodies and stuff like that to come up with that 50%. And I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
if they're gonna do that
Yeah,
type of
that's a
rule
good question,
on the
right?
other one too, so it all comes down to how they interpret 50% of the town. If it's like the workforce housing, it might be a little different.
Yeah.
House
There's
works are
another,
out, huh?
there's another bill that would said that if you come in with an application, build a house,
We're still,
they won't look at. What?
we're still live. You can leave your, you
Why
should
are
leave
we
your,
live?
because
Wait,
we haven't
we
adjourned.
You haven't adjourned.
I
So
thought we adjourned.
No,
We were discussing your
we're
bill.
discussing your bill.
They brought the thing.
So you should just leave your mic up, that way the recorded minutes
All right.
can hear you.
The other one, bill that I was looking at, it would depend on what your neighbors have. That would be your zoning. If you're in an older part of town and you have 1 acre lots, then the town, whatever the town has, you would be entitled to 1 acre lot.
What that basically comes down to, when you look at a variance, when you go to the 5 criteria, so if you take like Berry River Long Shores where they got all these small lots.
Right.
Or along the lakes, like by your house, if the lot creates the hardship, step 1, it's compatible with the neighborhood, the whole, so basically what it comes down to is they're almost, the ZBA is almost handcuffed to have to approve these anyway, so they're making it like, we're just gonna approve this by right instead of making them go through the process, is what that law really does.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of crap.
Yeah, I've been looking at some of it, and it's.
But the housing committee votes 15-0 to support every one of these in the House. So I would think that Senate bill, those 2 Senate bills would get approved by them. Whether the governor would sign it or not, I don't know her feelings, but I think she will. Everybody's, even the guy who proposed this in the Senate is a free stater. He doesn't believe in big government. Remember, 2 years ago, they voted to secede from the United States of America.
Yeah, and it was this one. It was matched by Waters, I believe. Was the
Yeah, our guy is always supporting anything to do with housing. Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah,
they were talking about in some municipalities you couldn't even have a 5,000 square foot lot if you have water and sewer.
Right,
it has to be smaller than that.
If you go by what the House bill that was presented, but that one ended up being tabled, and that was gone straight on DES loading, had nothing to do with anything
We often
else.
table these things so it gets into House Bill 1 and 2, which the finance bills, which automatically pass.
Well-
So these guys stick all these strange things in
That
there.
House bill actually got tabled because the Senate bill was less restrictive, and it thought that they had a higher chance of passing on that Senate bill, which did the 88,000, which started out as 80,000. And then.
Started at 66,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then it went up, yeah.
And then up to
But
88.
the other one, the House bill was just by septic loading, and if you do straight septic loading by DES, it was less than an acre that you could make a septic and a well on the same lot work, so it's a huge difference in what those 2 bills
30,000
were.
is their minimum.
Yeah.
Okay, ready to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Roll call. Good eye.
Good night.
Nap by.
Capiella, aye.
That's your eye.